Hello everyone, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0. Welcome back to the channel. Enjoy the fanfic. And let's begin. Part 2. Hitaki. Orochimaru said, putting a hand on Tsunade's shoulder after her initial growl of greeting. What do you want? Tsunade said rudely. Is this him? The silver-haired Jonin asked, looking at Naruto. The three Sannin were on alert. They remembered what Sarutobi said 13 years ago about Kakashi's words and actions. None of your concern, Jiraiya said, putting a hand on Naruto's shoulders. The other Oto nin tensed. Kakashi's lone eye scanned over Naruto. He looks so much like Minato-sensei. He said. He should. He's his son. A voice said from the side. Rin. Naruto said and rushed to greet her. Rin. Kakashi said, surprised to see her. She'd vanished several years after the Sannin had left. Of course she hadn't spoken to him since that night 13 years ago. Hello Hitaki, she said, then walked up and hugged Naruto. Look at you Naruto. It's been 3 years since I passed through Oto. You've grown. I'm 13 Rin, he said, and she ruffled his hair. Got a girlfriend yet runt? She asked, putting an arm over his shoulder, ignoring Kakashi, who was looking at her in surprise and shock. No, and Anko Ne-chan keeps chasing them away. He said. How? Kakashi asked, looking at his former teammate. Where did you go? I thought you were killed on a mission. Trying to find out where she went. Rin stopped messing around with the blonde at her side and glared at him. As far as the people and ninja of Konoha know, I am dead. I died the day my teammate tried to kill our sensei's son. I died when my clan banished me when I couldn't meet their standards. She turned her back on her cycloptic former teammate. Sorry I haven't been through Oto lately. I was gathering reports for the old pervert. Rin said. Which one? Naruto asked with a cheeky grin. I'm not a pervert, Jiraiya said, then grinned as he rounded on the blonde youth. I'm a super pervert. Tsunade's fist drove him to the ground where he lay groaning. Stifle it, she said and smiled at Rin. We do need to get caught up, she said, and the younger woman nodded. I'll see you soon. I owe you all for saving me. The three Sannin, Shizune, Naruto and Anko knew what she meant. Flashback. I can't believe there are towns like this still around, Shizune said as they slipped down an alley. They were in a mining town near the southern border of Fire Country. The daimyos have tried, but they keep popping up. Between the mining, gambling and prostitution, there are also slave rings and other unsavory people. Jiraiya said, looking around to make sure no one is near. Naruto, Anko, stay close, no wandering off this time, Tsunade said as she too gazed at the various alcoves and dark shadows. They were entering the center of the town where there was a large gathering. What's going on here? Shizune wondered. Not CER, ah crap. Jiraiya said, putting a hand on Anko's and Naruto's shoulders and pulled them back. Slave auction, he hissed to the other Sannin. End flashback. They rescued me and 100 other people. I swore loyalty to them that day. Rin said, her eyes hardening as she looked at her former teammate. It was that mission the council sent me on, alone and underprepared. Rin, Kakashi looked uncertain as to what to say. You're blocking the way Hitaki. We need to check in, Orochimaru said. What are you doing here? I came to cheer on my teams. I know the cages usually don't arrive until the finals of the Chunin exams, but I am not letting Naruto or the others come here without me. Why? Kakashi asked in surprise. Simple Hitaki. We no longer trust Konoha. Now you can go and tell Sarutobi that the Otokage is here and will meet with him in an hour. Orochimaru turned and the others followed. 3 of Orochimaru's bodyguards stood watching the Konoha nin, they all wore cloaks. Leave, Kimimaro said, or we'll make you. Jirobo said, smacking his fist into his other hand. Sakin stood silent watching Kakashi, who finally nodded his head and vanished in a leaf shushin. Naruto sat on his bed and sighed. So that was my father's student. His voice was soft. Anko put a hand on her brother's shoulder. Tsunade Ka-san said we'd run into him. Naruto nodded. You going to be okay sharing with Kin-chan and Haku-chan? He asked. Anko growled. Better than their alternative. Which was? The blonde asked his sister. They wanted to share a room with you. Anko growled. Naruto smiled at his sister's protective nature. And you don't think I would like that? Anko bopped him on the head. You've been spending way too much time around Arrow Pop. She sat next to him. Hey, you be careful during the exam, alright? I don't want to lose my brother. Naruto put an arm around her shoulder. I'll be careful. I've got Gaara and Kin-chan on my team. The siblings sat in silence. So, you think Arrow Pop's already peeping? Naruto asked. Anko snorted. Knowing him, he took Kankuro with him as a lookout. Tamari knocked and entered. Hey Tamari-chan. Naruto said, ignoring his sister's scowl. Have either of you seen Gaara? She asked. Anko and Naruto shook their heads. Damn it. Want help finding him? Naruto asked, standing up. Please. You and your family are the only ones he listens to. The fan user grumped. He listens to you most of the time since his seal was fixed. Naruto said in defense of his friend. I know. Hell, he listens better than Kankuro. Tamari said, grabbing a pair of fans that were 3 feet long and slipped them across her back. I'll let the others know we're going to look for him. Anko said. Wait outside. The two blondes nodded as the snake user slipped away. Thanks, Naruto. You and your family have done so much for us. Naruto waved it off. Uncle Orochi saw how your father treated you, and it was the best trade he ever made, getting rid of a couple of poor ninja for the 3 of you, who are not only skilled ninja, but because you were amongst my first friends. The pair waited outside the hotel and they saw several villagers looking at them, and when they saw Naruto, their scowls. They see me as the fox. Naruto said sadly. Like Suna saw Gaara as that overgrown sand rat. Tamari muttered. Hey, Naruto, Tamari said as they waited. What is it, Tamari-chan? Would you like to go out to eat tonight? You know, just the 2 of us. The fan user asked. Naruto didn't get to reply as Anko joined them and grabbed her brother by his arm and dragged him down the street. Come on, Windy. We need to find Raccoon Boy. Anko said, not letting go her brother's arm and dragging him off. Up and down streets they walked when they were in a back alley when a young boy ran into Naruto. Hey, watch where you're going. The brown-haired boy said, looking up at Naruto. Watch where I'm going, Naruto said with a smirk. You ran into me. No, I didn't. The boy said. Naruto sighed, reached down and picked the kid up by his collar and lifted him into the air just as several people came around the corner. One was a girl his age with pink hair. Then there were a boy and a girl this kid's age, and finally a guy wearing a pink shirt and black pants. Put him down, the pink-haired girl screeched. Just helping him up, Naruto said, putting the boy his feet. Yeah, that's right, you better apologize. The boy said. Konohamaru, the pink-haired girl said. And why is that? Naruto asked. Because he's the Hokage's grandson. The boy in the pink shirt said. Grandson. Yeah, that's right, Konohamaru said, puffing up his chest, a snicker on his face. That changed as Naruto pulled him up again by his shirt and held him up at eye level. I don't care if you were the Hokage's grandmother. You ran into me, you little snot. Perhaps I should pound some manners into you, since it's obvious this village has yet to learn any. Naruto's hand was hit by a stone, but he didn't let go of the kid identified as Konohamaru. He looked up to see a pair of Sharingan eyes and a duck butt hairstyled boy his age up in a branch. Let him go, or I'll make you. Naruto snorted. You can try, but my friend behind you would crush you before you manage to twitch. He saw the boy's confusion as he turned to see the darkened gaze of a redhead. Can't you stay out of trouble? The redhead asked. You know me, need to meet new people and make new enemies all at the same time. Naruto said to Gaara. They both were enjoying the look of shock on the raven-haired boy's face. We were looking for you. You really need to tell someone where you're going, especially since we're not at home. Naruto scolded the younger boy. Gaara didn't answer, but vanished in a sand shushin and reappeared next to Naruto. Naruto looked at the boy and rapped him on the forehead. Don't be so rude next time, squirt. Naruto said and put him back on his feet. Then with Gaara, Temari and Anko turned to go. Sasuke Uchiha leapt from the tree and landed in front of his teammates and next to the stunned Konohamaru. Hey, you, Blondie. What's your name? The Oto group stopped and looked back. Who? Me? Temari asked. No, the other blonde. I don't swing that way. Naruto said. Besides, it's bad manners to demand things without first introducing yourself. Don't care. Naruto said, cutting him off. We have more important things to do than play with a bunch of rude Konoha genin and children. Naruto was turning when he saw his way blocked by Kakashi Hatake. Sensei. The pink-haired girl yelled. The lone eye was on Naruto. Being rude yourself, Naruto. Kakashi said. Anko hissed. I really don't think you have room to talk, Cyclops. And I know for a fact that his mother wants you nowhere near him. Kakashi ignored her and took a step towards Naruto. I wish to speak with you. The Oto contingent formed ranks around Naruto while Anko pulled out a pair of wicked-looking knives. Leave, she said. Kakashi looked at her, then at the knives, then over her head. I want to speak with Naruto. He said. Not happening. Anko said. Naruto heard from his mother and Rin about how Hatake thought he should be killed hours after hhis father sealed the Kyuubi inside him. I don't have anything to say to you, Jonin Hatake. Naruto said. He flared his chakra. It was a signal him and his family developed when he and Anko was young and they were faced with a threat beyond their skills. Naruto knew Anko was skilled, but Hatake had the Sharingan from his dead teammate, and they were in Konoha. Naruto flared his chakra in the set pattern, and saw Kakashi's eye focus on him. Calm down, I don't mean you any harm. He said. Sorry. Don't believe you. You were willing to kill me a few hours after I was born. And the last time I was in Konoha I was threatened with death again. Naruto said. Gaara next to him looked at the Cyclops and he popped the cork on his gourd. My friend has asked you to leave. He said low. Temari had pulled the fans from her back, but had yet to open them. Behind them they could hear the genin they'd met moving closer. Temari turned. Stay back, this doesn't concern you. She warned. That is our sensei. You fight him, you fight us. Sasuke said, and Temari saw his eyes. Crap. We have another Sharingan behind us, the one with the duck-ass style hairdo. Gaara turned his body so he could see both the Jonin before them and the genin coming closer. Stay back, he said. Kakashi-sensei, are you okay? The pink-haired girl asked. Everything is fine, Sakura, Kakashi said as he took another step forward. Stay back, Hatake, you've been warned. Anko said. He ignored her and continued to approach. He was nearly upon them when Kimimaro appeared. You were asked to stay away from them, Naruto, especially Hatake. The leader of the Sound Five intoned. Kakashi was about to speak when Sasuke leapt towards the Oto genin. Sasuke, no. Too late, the last loyal Uchiha was caught in a fist made of sand. Gaara had turned to face the genin once Kimimaro had arrived. Konoha Anbu appeared seconds later. Let him go. A hawk-masked Anbu ordered. No. Gaara said. He attacked the heir of the Otokage, and the Jonin there was told to stay away, and ignored it. Kimimaro looked at the Konoha Anbu. So this is the famed Anbu my lord was talking about. I am not impressed. Kakashi looked at the group. Captain, stand down. This is all a misunderstanding. They have the Uchiha. The hawk said. Sasuke got too eager and attacked in a situation that he shouldn't have become involved in. I'm sure our Oto allies will release him. He said, looking at the red-headed boy. Naruto put a hand on Gaara's shoulder. Toss him. And that's what Gaara did. Sasuke landed several feet away. He rolled to a stop at Sakura's feet, who yelled about the treatment of her Sasuke-kun, and the Oto nin were lucky that he allowed them to catch him. We're heading back to our hotel now, Anko said. I'm afraid you and the demon will be detained. The hawk said. On what grounds? Anko asked. Attacking a Konoha ninja and disturbing the peace. Naruto snorted. If I was to disturb the peace, you would know it. Naru-Nisan, stow it. Anko hissed. I'm sorry you think this concerns any of you. But we are the ones being harassed. Be that as it may, the demon child is coming with us. Hawk said. I don't think so. The Anbu turned and froze, seeing Orochimaru and Tsunade standing there with the Hokage. Orochimaru looked at his former teacher. Nothing changes. He hasn't been here and yet they hate him. He looked at Tsunade, who walked past the Anbu, and stopped looking at her son. You just can't avoid getting in trouble, she said, ruffling his hair. Not my fault, Ka-san. Hitaki is persistent in talking with me and won't take no for an answer. Tsunade glared at the Konoha Jonin. I told you to stay away from him, Hitaki. He shrugged and looked at the boy. Kakashi, report to my office. Sarutobi ordered. Anbu, stand down, now. He roared the last part when it looked like they were going to refuse. Orochimaru, Tsunade, I am sorry about this. We will remain for the exams, old man. Tsunade said. But I am going to make one thing perfectly clear, an attack on Naruto will result in war. And trust me when I say he's made several allies for Oto. Orochimaru nodded. Suna, Iwa, Kiri all have allied with Oto. Kimimaro. Tsunade said, getting the Oto nin's attention. Thank you for being prompt in responding. He bowed his head. No need to thank me, Lady Tsunade. He then looked at Naruto and bowed to him. None shall harm him. Sarutobi looked at the Oto contingent. Suna, Oto, Kiri, Iwa, this has the potential to be a disaster, and the council is demanding that Orochimaru turn Naruto over to Konoha isn't helping matters. The morning of the Chunin exam came around and Kakashi Hitaki had been chased off the hotel property several times. He refused to state what he wanted, but he wanted to speak with Naruto alone. Like that's going to happen, Anko said. The only other commotion had been Anko finding Kin and Haku snuggled up that morning with Naruto. She had ignored Gaara and his teddy bear glaring at her for yelling, and she managed to avoid the shower of Senbon needles from the two girls before she got hold of them by their ears and dragged them out, the whole time lecturing, "Stay away from my brother." Naruto was nervous as they approached the academy. His mother was behind his team with Kimimaro. Both refused to allow the teams to wander alone after the incident several days back. Tsunade's rant about the stupid council was heard when a messenger had shown up with a scroll demanding Oto hand over Naruto. Sadly, Naruto heard the messenger was going to be on a liquid diet for the coming month and might be able to sit down within 2 months. Relax, brat. Tsunade saw his nervous energy. Konoha never changes its exam. The first part will be psychological, the second will be a survival, and the third round is a single elimination tournament. Sounds stupid. Naruto muttered. You thinking of waiting another 6 months and take the exam in Iowa? Tsunade asked, and Naruto could hear the hope in his mother's voice. Nope. Already put it off so Gaara and I could team with Kin-chan. Said girl blushed at her teammate's statement. You got your pipes? Tsunade asked. Yes, mom. Don't take that tone with me, young man. You have your survival gear sealed in your scrolls? She asked the 3 genin as they walked. Ahead them was Anko's team and behind them was Jiraiya's. Yes. The 3 said. Gaara, you have your instrument? Tsunade asked. Yes, Lady Tsunade, he said, and she saw the scroll on his. Kin, I have my flute and the medical packs you prepared for us back at Otogakur, Lady Tsunade. She said. You'd think you were taking this test, Suheim. Jiraiya said, coming closer. I'm worried, she admitted. With the scroll from the council and Hitaki's insistence at speaking with Naruto. It will be fine, Jiraiya said. Hey brat, what arrow pop? Naruto asked. Don't call me that, Jiraiya said and sighed. You have it, right? Yeah, Naruto said. Good. Be careful in there, the Toad Sage said. He fell back to be near his team. Kabuto. He spoke lowly. Watch over them. I know Anko's got her team doing it as well, but with the Council of Fools making demands. You think they'll try something during the second part of the exam? The glasses teen asked. Yes. Also, keep your eyes out for Kakashi Hatake. He's been stalking Naruto since we got here. His team has the Uchiha orders. Jiraiya handed the scroll to Kabuto. Either seal the Sharingan, or eliminate him. As you and the Otokage command, Lord Jiraiya. Kabuto said, pushing his glasses up. Kankuro and Dosu nodded, understanding their orders as well. You're not fooling anyone. Drop the genjutsu and get out of the way. They heard entering the building. Naruto shook his head. What a dumbass. What you say? The pink-haired girl turned around. I said your boyfriend is a dumbass. The genjutsu was set up to get rid of weaker teams. Sasuke turned to see the teenagers they saw a couple days ago. Fight me, he demanded. Naruto and his team ignored him and walked past. Sasuke, pissed at being ignored, reached out to grab Naruto when another hand grabbed his wrist and squeezed hard. You shall not touch Naruto-sama, a teen said. He was wearing white clothes and a black trench coat. He had a red headband keeping his spiky brown hair out of his eyes. Ryu, don't waste your time on the Konoha trash, Tamari said. Save it for the second part of the exam. Ryo let Sasuke go with a snap, staggering the Uchiha back. The Konoha genin glared as the Oto teams moved up the stairs. Sasuke-kun, Sakura asked while their teammate stood there in shock. Above, a pair of eyes with bushy eyebrows looked at the Uchiha and made a decision. Naruto looked around the room. A lot of teams here. No one I know, he thought. He frowned seeing three figures. Shadow Society, he thought, seeing the black and blue masked figure next to the orange and black figure with a third figure sporting a skull mask. Naruto. Kin was next to him. What's wrong? Scorpion and Sub-Zero are here, he said, gesturing. Who's the skull bearer? She asked. Not sure, but things got more dangerous, Naruto said. Pass the word. Avoid them at all costs. Kin nodded while Naruto watched the trio. It's been a couple of years, he thought. Naruto and Anko were at a nearby fishing village, having slipped away from their family who were busy getting Otogakure set up and running. The two children had even managed to slip away from their guards. The simple reason was they were tired of being watched. Ever since the episode with Kabuto's family, they had been heavily watched. Are you sure we're fine here? Anko asked. She was still rather subdued and quieter since that day. She did listen to her little brother a lot, which many found strange, yet the two would always back the other around anyone. Yeah, it's not like we've gone to Suna. We're just down the valley and near the river, Naruto said. He was wearing an outfit that was similar to Jiraiya's, except it was blue and he didn't have the horned forehead protector. Anko shook her head. We get grounded, it's your fault. Yeah, come on. I want to see the SS that are using the river to get to the ocean. The river was deep enough that many SS traversed it to cut off the time it took to reach the ocean. I thought we were coming for that festival, Anko said. That's later, but there should be stalls up with free food, Naruto said. And how do you know all about this? Anko asked her younger brother. A classmate mentioned it. He was coming down tonight with his dad, Naruto said. And this friend's name? Anko asked. She'd learned right away that if Naruto didn't give a name, then it was either second-hand information, or it was someone he knew he wasn't supposed to be around. Doubt you know him, Naruto said. And that cinches it. It's someone Ka-san forbade him from hanging around, Anko thought. And you trust this friend? Anko asked. Yeah, pretty much, Naruto said as they entered the village. Alright, does mom trust this friend? Anko asked and saw the body wince, I guess. Naruto said. You know bro, you suck at lying. Anko said, getting him to stop and face her. So what? I'm sick of being stuck in one place. You remember when we were younger? We never stayed in one place this long. You know why we're setting up here. So what? Naruto said. I'm not scared of some masked idiot who thinks I'm the Ing Fox. He turned and stomped away. Anko sighed and chased after him. It took her nearly 10 minutes to catch up to him, and when she did, she froze. There, standing next to her brother, was a figure they hoped never to see again. Nadas. She whispered and pulled a kunai and leapt at the masked fighter. He didn't turn, but his hand caught her by the front of her shirt. Now little serpent. I am not here for this. Nadas looked at Naruto. You've grown, Naruto. Happens with time. Naruto fired back. His gaze went to the two ninja with him. Ah, my guards, Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Usually the most bitter of enemies, but under my command they are the most dedicated of soldiers. Good for you, Naruto said. Nadas smirked. They aren't of this world. But in time they will be. They will be reborn and they will do all I command. Naruto looked at the man who attacked him and his family all those years ago. I'm not going with you. The blonde stated. Nadas laughed. You're not. The man agreed, and it surprised the two youths. I am simply passing through at this time. You are safe from me at this time, Naruto. The man walked away. He said something to the two ninja, and Naruto and Anko watched as they attacked a man. Sub-Zero turned the man into an ice sculpture with a simple touch, and Scorpion with a strange spear that shot from his hand shattered the man. Flawless. Nadas said and continued to lead the two ninja away. They boarded a strange boat with red sails and dragon motifs. I think we better go home now. Naruto muttered. End flashback. Naruto saw that it was them, younger than they'd been the last time, but the same white dead eyes. Naruto found his attention drawn to the genin from Konoha hearing, Sasuke-kun. He watched a blonde leap onto the Uchiha's back while the Uchiha's pink-haired teammate yelled at her to get off. He noticed that the Uchiha looked a bit bruised. Idiot doesn't learn. He keeps it up, he's going to get himself and his team killed. Naruto thought as he slipped back with Kin and Gaara. Kin leaned in. I told the others. Kabuto's going to see if he can draw out some of the Konoha genin. Naruto shook his head. He didn't see what his sister saw in the medic nin. Naruto had been amazed with the amount of information in his nin cards. Kabuto said it had taken him a long time to learn how to use them. If we can, we need to tell Anko Nei-chan that Nadas's freaks are here. Not sure who the one in the skull mask is, but Scorpion and Sub-Zero are killers. Kin put a hand on his forearm. The Uchiha is staring at you as well. Sasuke strode up to him. Fight me, he demanded again. No, Naruto said and looked at Kin. So, Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries, do you think it's possible to pull off without strings? Don't ignore me. Go away, duck ass. Naruto said. We're not from Konoha, we'll smack you down for your attitude. Sasuke went to strike Naruto, but the blonde was faster than him and sent him crashing into the blackboard at the front of the room, silencing all chatter. Try that again, Uchiha, and I will do more than break a rib on you. Naruto said, lowering his leg and looking at Kin. So, the bridge on the second stanza. You can't do that to Sasuke-kun. The pink-haired banshee screamed and came at Naruto, but her other teammate stopped her and said something to her. Sakura, don't. You wouldn't stand a cha, was as far as the nameless cannon fodder got before a Sakura punch sent him careening into a wall not far from her precious Sasuke-kun. Sakura turned back to go at Naruto, but found her way blocked by several females. Temari, Haku and Kin were in her way, each glaring at her. What do you want? Sakura demanded. Temari spoke for the trio. You think we'll let you harm Naruto-kun because of some blind obsession you have for that emo ass there? Think again, Pinky. Naruto might not hit a girl, but if you try and treat him like you just treated your teammate, then we've got issues, and trust me when I say I will beat the living shit out of you, and that will be before Haku and Kin can get to you. Sakura blinked and recognized the blonde from the other day. But he attacked Sasuke-kun. The pink-haired single-minded organism known as Fangirl whined. Kin growled. Your stupid boyfriend tried to attack Naruto-kun. I don't know how things work here in Konoha, and I don't give a flying. I know in Oto that shit outside of training or battle isn't allowed, and he'd have been at best suspended from duty, and done some time in a cell. Haku spoke. Attacking the heir of the Otokage, however, Tamari smirked, could lead to a death sentence if Orochimaru-sama is in a good mood. Kin snorted. That's if Lady Tsunade or Jiraiya-sama didn't get to the offending party first. Sakura blinked. Heir. Kin laughed. Yes. He is the child of the former Sannin of Konoha and the heir our Shodai Otokage. But that doesn't matter in Oto, little girl. You see, in Oto, we are all treated equally. Naruto-kun, despite being the child of our leaders, is treated the same as anyone else, and he asked for it that way. Tamari snorted. The amount of times he's gotten in trouble with Anko-sensei is in the triple digits easily. Sakura was now looking at Haku, as if trying to place her. Haku meanwhile recognized the pink-haired girl from the disaster in Wave, but said nothing. There was a loud explosion at the front of the room and smoke billowed around. Shut the up, you punks. A rough voice bellowed. When the smoke cleared, they saw a tall scar-faced man sporting a Konoha Hitai and a black trench coat. Behind him on either side was a squad of Chunin dressed up in Proctor's uniforms, including the two that Sasuke had unveiled earlier in his arrogance. The man, who appeared to be a special Jonin of some kind, continued in a smoother tone of voice, I am the examiner of the first test of the Chunin selection exam, Ibiki Morino. Naruto looked at the test. What the hell? Ka-san was right, they really don't change their tests. Slowly over the next hour, Naruto wrote the answers in shorthand that Shizune and his mother taught him. Screw them. I am not giving away answers so others can cheat. He thought after flipping his paper over when he saw several of the Konoha nin using skills or bloodlines to cheat. His eyes saw that the girl next to him, another Konoha nin, had indigo hair and a pair of pale lavender eyes. He saw her looking at him out of the corner of his eye and smiled. Not another one. Anko's going to go spar. He thought. Naruto knew he was pretty good looking. His mother and aunt informed him of this. Not to mention the birds and the bees talk, shudder, with charts. Naruto knew they had given him the talk about because his Ka-san didn't trust Arrow Pop to do it, and Uncle Orochi turned the weirdest shade of red when he'd been asked to do it and said, ask your mother. And rushed off. Naruto saw the girl was looking at him still and winked at her, which got a deep blush from her. Yep. Anko Ne-chan is going to go spar. Haku, Rin and Tamari were scattered around the back end of the room, and all three scowled seeing the female Konoha genin eyeing their Naruto-kun. That bitch better step off. Were three of the same thoughts the three possessed. They also pictured various means of chasing the girl off. It was Haku who thought of the easiest way. I'll just let Anko-sensei know there is a Konoha tart sniffing around her little brother. With that in mind, Haku created a ice mirror in the palm of her hand and slipped a note through it before going back to work on the test Lady Tsunade had informed them about before coming to Konoha. Sasuke was fuming. That Oto Dobi has power I want, power I need to kill him. I need it. He was pissed he couldn't seem to copy the blonde Oto nin's moves, even worse, he seemed to be washed out when he looked at him with his Sharingan. Sadly, Sasuke was unaware of the seal Jiraiya put on all the Oto nin to counter this years ago as a way to keep Oto's secrets secret. I will learn your secrets, Dobi. No one denies an Uchiha. Under his skull mask, Nada smirked. Sub-Zero and Scorpion were reborn, severing the ties with their old world. He smiled seeing Naruto here, but he wasn't the objective. His eyes searched out and found the target of this mission. Sasuke Uchiha. You are wanted by my master. He looked at the test the proctor had handed out and finished it with a simple wave of his hand. The answers filled in and he turned it over. His eyes once more looking for the blonde. I may not be allowed to capture you for now, Naruto, but one day, your power will belong to my master, and I will be rewarded. During the hour there were many eliminations as people were caught cheating. Ibiki however remained silent. His eyes were on the blonde in the second row next to the Hyuga heiress. Sarutobi said to keep watch on him, and prevent anyone from attacking him. Ibiki was surprised to see him finish the test in the first 15 minutes. He also watched as the boy teased and flirted with the Hyuga heiress, getting her to turn redder than a tomato. What is the Hokage planning for you? He called out the 10-minute warning as several more teams were eliminated. Too many of them remain. Hopefully I can thin them out with the torture of the last question. Ibiki laughed, chilling many of the students and getting a few to quit and one even wet himself. Life is good. Tsunade glared at Kakashi as they sat in the waiting room. Jiraiya and Anko were finding it hard to hold her back. Stay away from my son Hatake. I won't warn you again. The blonde Sannin snarled. I just wish to speak with him. The Konoha Jonin said calmly. The other Konoha Jonin were looking on. Many in surprise. Surprised that the famed copycat ninja was without his usual orange book. I don't think so. Tsunade hissed. I remember the Hokage telling me of your actions all those years ago, Hatake. His father asked you to raise and protect him, but hours after he saved this village and died, you try and kill his son. You tried to kill him before the Hokage and your former teammate. You had your chance, Kakashi Hatake. I won't allow you another. As entertaining as this is, does anyone know about the first exam? A grass Jonin asked. It was Asuma Sarutobi who, after lighting his cigarette while ignoring the glares from others, answered. They'll be lucky if they pass. Why is that? Kurenai Yuhi, a Jonin of Konoha, asked. Kakashi turned his gaze from Tsunade, looking at her before he answered. You're still rather new as a Jonin, so I'm not surprised you don't know. Know what? Kurenai asked. It was Asuma who spoke again, exhaling a cloud of smoke. The head proctor for the first exam is the head of Konoha's interrogation unit, Ibiki Morino. Several Jonin winced hearing that name. Many looked at the Oto contingent as they all smiled. Anko jumped as something cold touched her hand. She saw a palm-sized ice mirror appear and a note slip into her hand. A second note already, she thought. The first had been a warning from Haku about Naruto warning them about Scorpion and Sub-Zero being in the exam. After reading the new note, she scowled and looked at the Konoha Jonin. Which one of you is the sensei of a female Hyuga? Naruto sighed out loud. He was bored. He saw particles of sand gather on his desk, and soon they formed words. Do you need help? Shake head yes or no. Naruto shook his head no. Do you want to play a game? Naruto smiled and nodded his head yes. He watched as the sand became the familiar tic-tac-toe board. With a smile he lazily traced an X in the top left square. The sand shifted and formed an O in the center square. Naruto made another X in the bottom left corner. An O formed in the left center square block NG him. He put an X in the center right box blocking a win for Gaara. An O formed in the upper right box. Naruto put an X in the bottom right corner. Damn. Draw. Formed in the sand. Naruto smiled and shrugged. Another game. Before Naruto could reply, Ibiki spoke from the front of the room. All right, you snots. It's time for the 10th and final question. Now here are the rules. If you take this question and fail, then you will never rise above the rank of genin. What? Screams filled the room. Naruto saw a teen his age with a dog stand. You can't do that. The boy yelled. Shut up. Ibiki snarled and flashed his killing intent. My test. My rules. You can leave now if you want and take the test again when some other pansy gives you this test. His dark gaze swept the room. Decide now if you're going to take the test or not. Several quit, and their teammates were forced to leave with them. Naruto saw that the Uchiha's teammates looked terrified. Both looked ready to raise their hands and quit. Kurenai looked disturbed after talking with Anko, who had pulled her aside after finding out she was Hinata's sensei. The amount of questions, Kurenai shuddered and disgusted with herself about the amount of information she'd given to the Oto Jonin. So why are the three of you looking so assured? Asuma was asking. Jiraiya answered for the group. Ibiki might be a master of interrogation and intimidation, but our students have been through hell nearly all their lives, some of them literally. Anko snorted, retaking her seat. Tsunade's team won't even twitch. Hell, I bet Gaara and Naruto are either sleeping or playing a game. Like yours will be any worse. Tsunade said. Anko gave a shrug. As long as Nisan stands tall, Haku and Tamari will drag Ryu over a river of fire to impress my little brother, even if that meant killing Ryu in the process. Jiraiya snorted. That poor boy got stuck with two girls that want to show Naruto that they are the best. He clapped his hands together and smiled. But then again, my own team has something to prove, and they know if they quit before the other two teams, they'd never hear the end of it. Who are Naruto's teammates? I think I recognize the red head from somewhere. Kakashi asked. Kin is one of Naruto's classmates. She graduated with him in Ryu, or as their teachers called them, the Never Say Die Trio. Tsunade said. Gaara is the son of the Kazekage of Suna, but for political and personal reasons he and his siblings were traded to Oto and are now part of our village. Jiraiya said, a smirk on his face. The Oto Jonin weren't going to mention Ryu's, Kabuto's or Haku's past since all three were connected with Konoha in some way, none of them good. Kakashi looked at the clock on the wall. Looks like we'll know soon, the first exam should be nearly done. So Blondie, Ibiki said, standing right in front of Naruto. You gonna go crawling back to Oto? Naruto yawned loudly. You say something, Scarface. I was about to take a nap while you weeded out the wheat from the chaff. Ibiki smirked. I asked if you were ready to quit, or are you willing to bet your ninja career and stay a genin for life if you fail? Naruto snorted as another team walked out. Bring it on. My sister is scarier than you are this test when it's her time of the month. Besides, I'd like to see you enforce that genin thing outside of this village. Ibiki scowled as several victims, i.e. genin that looked ready to quit, didn't. Damn brat. It took him minutes to disrupt an hour's work. Ibiki thought. And besides, even if that was possible, and I do get stuck as a genin for the rest of my life, it doesn't matter. And why is that? Ibiki asked, curious to see what the blonde would do now. That just means I'll be the world's strongest genin that will be able to kick a Kage's ass. So bring on your 10th question, because Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze won't back down no matter what, that's my way of the ninja. Never say die. Testify. Ryu and Kin yelled from their seats and the Oto group chuckled at that. Naruto looked at Ibiki. Give me your best, I'll take it, chew it up and spit out the change. Crap. He's dispelled the fear effect. Anyone else want to save their ninja careers and quit now? Last chance. Ibiki looked around and sighed mentally while keeping his face blank. 42 remain, 14 teams. He tallied it up. No one. He asked when no one moved. Well then, you all pass. He said and smirked at the looks of disbelief as gasps of surprise and yelled, what about the 10th question? And the sighs of relief filled the room. The chunin around the room smiled. Ibiki pulled off his bandana and the room fell quiet as he began to speak. Anko twirled the pair of kunai by their rings as she looked at Kakashi. So One Eye, if Ibiki's the first exam, who's got the next phase? The gathered Jonin senseis looked at Kakashi. The copycat ninja sighed. Sadly, it's not a ninja. The Hokage felt that the second test would be more difficult and didn't want any show of favoritism, so he contracted an outside source. Well, spit it out. Who's in charge of the second exam? Anko demanded. Kakashi sighed. He's got many names, but the one he's given us at this time is Lu Yan. Jiraiya dropped his saucer, his eyes widened. Did you say Lu Yan? Yes, why? Kakashi asked, and many in the room looked at the Sannin as he paled. Jiraiya looked at Tsunade, who looked at him in concern. Lu Yang is the given name of Master Pure Yang, also known as Lu the Progenitor by some Taoists. He dresses as a scholar and wears a sword strapped to his back that will dispel evil spirits. Why does that name sound familiar? Tsunade said. Lu Yan is Lu Tung Pin, one of the 8 immortal deities revered by Taoists. Kakashi's eyes widened. What one of the 8 is doing here is a cause for concern. Anko muttered something and both Sannin looked at her. What? She sighed. Before the exam started I got a message from Haku. Nautilus's freaks are here as well. Sub-Zero and Scorpion with an unknown third. They're de-aged and sitting in on the exam. Who is Natas? Kakashi asked, seeing the 2 Sannin look worried. A threat. Jiraiya muttered. Think we can grab the kids and hit the border before they realize it? Tsunade asked, concern for her adoptive son's safety overriding all. No, Naruto won't run, Anko said, and the others will close ranks around him. Jiraiya nodded. The second stage of the Chunin exam just became more dangerous. The remaining teams looked at the scholar who was drunk and standing at the front of the room looking at them with complete boredom. You couldn't have lost a few more, Ibiki-san? Lu Yan asked. Feel the room. The drunk looked at the group with bleary eyes. Bah, they'll be cut down to half or more by the time they reach the end of my exam. The man let out a belch and sighed. All right, report 2, pulled out a scrap of paper and tried to focus his eyes on it. Forest of Death, the nice Chunin here will escort you. And where will you be? A brave genin asked. Yu held up his gourd. Refill. With that he vanished in a burst of water and the Chunin got up and started to herd the kids out. Ibiki sighed before collecting the tests. He got to the one where the blonde was sitting and read the note. Damn brat. I just might try to hire him someday. Ibiki went to inform the Hokage of the dangers in the group of genin and wondered how things got so out of control. I blame Danzo and his people for creating the weakness in Konoha, but the bastard still hasn't been found. The Forest of Death as it's called. Lu Yan said after taking a swig from his booze gourd. Naruto kept a partial ear on the directions and the gripping from many of the other genin, including the Konoha ones. Weak. Didn't their senseis warn them in advance? Glad Ka-san, Arrow Pop and Uncle told us what to expect. Actually, glad I'm not part of Konoha, they sound like as to Yuya-chan said a bunch of whiners. Naruto thought about one of his uncle's personal guard. He could sense Kimimaro nearby and knew the man was watching over him. He shared a look with Kin and Gaara. Kin used her eyes and he followed the look to where the Uchiha was standing surrounded by his fangirls and fellow Konoha nin. The haughty look on the idiot's face made him realize that the mission would be easy with how sloppy they all stood. No discipline. Hell, even when goofing off. Shaking his head he snorted. Gaara nodded while Kin signed the forms, forging his and Gaara's name like she'd done before. The 3 entered the tent and took the scroll. Lu Yan eyeing them. Now be careful in there. The drunken master said with a happy grin. We will. Naruto pulled a flask out and tossed it to the man. Some of Raya's finest. The man caught it, his eyes focusing on the beverage container, then looked at Naruto. There was a clarity there. We'll share a drink sometime. Naruto nodded. But of course, he looked around, smiled. Later, sensei. He whispered and followed Gaara and Kin towards their gate. You smiled as the blonde left. You've grown a lot over the last few years, Naruto. Be safe. The next team came in and the drunk sloppily handed them a scroll and accepted the consent forms. You are looking well, Naruto. The blonde frowned as Sub-Zero and Scorpion stood on either side of the third figure. Natas. Stay out of our way during the exam, Naruto. I am not here for you this time. The skull-masked Natas said. Who are you? The Uchiha. He said. Very observant, Naruto. How is Kyuubi? Sleeping and nearly absorbed. Naruto said. Arrow Pop adjusted the seal. So you're nearly out of luck. Naruto's eyes behind the mask narrowed. You 6. No fighting before the exam. A Chunin called out. Good luck Naruto. Naruto said, leading his team away. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Eat shit and die soon, bastard. Gaara chuckled at this while Kin pouted. You've really been around to Yuya too much, Naruto-kun. She said. Gaara looked at her and for some reason the comment bubbled up, and you wish it was you he was close to. The flute user scowled at Gaara. What do you know, Sandboy? Gaara couldn't help it. He blamed it on the fact he was able to sleep and his best friend Naruto was rubbing off on him. I know you and nearly every girl our age wants to have Naruto bed them and make them his, my sister included. Naruto got a look on his face when he heard that. She slipped into my window, I had nothing to do with that, Gaara. That is the only reason you lived. The redhead said. That and your sister had a long talk with me after I buried you under a sand hill. Naruto patted his friend's shoulder. He and Temari were the only ones allowed touch him without his sand flaring up. Sorry about that. Anko Ne-chan gets overprotective. Kin snorted as she recalled her own discussion with the snake Jonin and shuddered. It was taking her and Haku to fight her off and Kin wasn't liking the idea of having to share with anyone. Here's our gate, Gaara said. They looked at their watches and saw they had a good 40 minutes left before the exam would start and the other teams reached their gates. Wonder where the others are going to be starting from. Naruto sat down. Gaara smiled. Got a map. The three shared a smile. Sarutobi sighed as he got the reports. Outside forces are here. If what Tsunade and the others have said, this Naruto is a very dangerous man. What's more is that cloud, rain and grass are showing signs of attacking as well. He puffed on his pipe and cursed the day that the Sannin had abandoned Konoha. Their breaking ties with Konoha weakened us greatly. Oto has flourished over the years, they have acquired many strong ninja and the young ones are even stronger. They acquired the children of the Cage, one of whom holds another demon. Sarutobi sighed as he recalled the council demanding that he grab the Kyuubi brat and make him a personal weapon of Konoha. Sarutobi snorted. The person to do that will have to deal with Tsunade, that's if they survive Jiraiya and Orochimaru, and from what my former pupil told me, the Sound Village loves Naruto and would go to war for him. Sarutobi recalled the earlier meeting with Orochimaru who told him how Naruto would find strays and bring them to the village, how he would help them open up and heal their hearts and souls. Flashback. The one you'll really need to look out for is Kimimaro. Tsunade and Naruto saved his body, but it was Naruto who healed his heart and soul. Orochimaru said, sipping his tea. What do you mean, Orochi? Kimimaro had a rare disease, his clan had been betrayed and he's all that's left. He was prepared to die, he took an assassination mission to come to Oto and kill me. Orochimaru smiled as he looked at Kidomaru and Jirobo. He ran into Naruto, and his disease kicked in hard, he coughed up a lot of blood and passed out. Sarutobi listened as Orochimaru told him about the surgery and the removing of toxins from the man's body. How Naruto spent days with the recovering man, just talking with him. When he'd healed, he'd come to Orochimaru to kill him. Naruto had been there. I won't say what happened between them, it was special, but from that day Kimimaro swore his life, his blood and his future clan to Naruto and Tsuhime. Orochimaru looked over his teacup. And let me just say, if your council tries anything, Kimimaro will lay waste to Konoha. S2. Jirobo said from the door with his arms crossed. Orochimaru smiled. Yes, all of Oto loves that boy. He looked at Sarutobi. Konoha made their intentions clear all those years ago, Sarutobi-sensei. He is our child, and to take him would be all-out war. We have allies, some are yours, but push comes to shove, Orochimaru gave a Gaelic shrug. End flashback. Sarutobi looked at the monument. Minato, you may have saved this village, but we damned your child and it will come back and bite us on the ass, and this time, I don't think we deserve saving. Naruto was leaning against the tree while Kin was laying with her head in his lap. He was playing with her regular flute and she hummed along with him. You really are talented, Naruto-kun, Kin said as he paused. Thanks, Kin-chan, he said. Both looked to see a figure approaching. Uchiha, Gaara said. He had his eyes closed and was using his sand to watch the other teams with his floating eyes. Odo Dobi, Sasuke said. So Kin, do you and Haku-chan think you can handle Anko? Naruto asked, ignoring the dark-haired Konoha teen. Kin's eyes widened as she looked up at Naruto, who smirked at her then winked. Ooh, she thought as her heart sped up as he leaned down and gave her a peck on the forehead. Don't ignore me, Sasuke yelled. He moved to attack, but a Chunin appeared. Move along, Uchiha. Report to your gate, your team is waiting for you. Sasuke seethed. This isn't over. You say something, duck ass. Naruto said as he adjusted the flute and played a little ditty that seemed to match the stomps as Sasuke stormed away. Flirt later, Gaara said as he stood. He rolled up the map and stood. It's nearly time. Kin scowled as she sat up. Naruto stood with the ease of a cat. Or a really hot fox. Kin thought, looking him over. She jumped when he pulled her to her feet. Daydream later, Kin-chan. I'm sure I can fulfill whatever you're dreaming of. Gaara sighed as the girl was blown back with a fountain nosebleed. Sigh, you just had to push her buttons now. Naruto shrugged. What can I say? Arrow Pop told me to have fun during the exam. You do know they are going to claim you one of these days. You can't keep the clueless facade up forever. Gaara said. I've heard Tamari planned to tie you down and, in her words, make a man out of you all night long. Naruto paused from helping Kin and looked at his friend. And you're going to kill me? Gaara paused and looked at him. No, I'd like you as a brother-in-law. Naruto watched his teammate gather the scroll up. He looked at Kin and wiped the blood from her upper lip and nose. Wake up, Kin-chan, he said softly. No, I want to dream more of Naru-kun. The girl said, taking his hand and clamping her hands around it and holding it against her chest. Naruto swallowed several times and looked around, thanking Kami that Anko wasn't here, nor his mom. Kami, they'd kill her and lecture me, he thought as he shook her again. Come on, Kin-chan, Anko will kill you otherwise. The girl was on her feet looking about wildly. Naruto smiled and put her spare flute in her hands. Come on, it's time, he said. She watched him walk away, her eyes going from the flute to the blonde, and then she recalled what he'd said and she made a squee sound just as the buzzer sounded, and the second task of the Chunin exam began with the teams leaping deep into the forest. Bored now, Naruto said as he twisted the Iwa Nin's neck around with minimal effort. You and Anko have short attention spans. Kin hissed as she pickpocketed the bodies of the Iwa ninja they'd just fought. Gaara, surrounded by sand as it flowed back into his gourd, gave the puddle that had been his opponent a disappointed look. The gear was blood-soaked from his attack, the flesh being liquefied under the pressure. Another Earth Scroll, Naruto said, finding the scroll in his opponent's belongings. Head for the tower, he asked. We haven't encountered the Uchiha, Kin said. Naruto shook his head. With Nadas and his freaks here, it would be a bad idea to remain as exposed. They had encountered a grass team 2 minutes in and got the Heaven Scroll. They'd been searching the last hour for the Uchiha, but came up empty. And we haven't seen the others either, Kin said. Gaara, Naruto asked, seeing his red-headed friend pulling out the map. Kankuro and his team are coming from the far north. Haku's team is coming from west, he said, pointing at the locations on the map. Good thing we all carry sand vials, Kin muttered. Gaara nodded and pointed at the map. The Uchiha's team would be coming from this way. That's too far out of our way. Best bet would be Kankuro and Kabuto, with Dosu getting to him. The 3 Odo Nins studied the map. We're not far from Haku and Tamari, Naruto began, and Kin chuckled. Wonder if Ryu's alive or being dragged. Ryu's got skills, Kin-chan, he just hates putting in the effort. Naruto said. If my sister has to, she will beat him the whole way to the tower to motivate him. Gaara said. Yeah, especially if she wants to impress Naruto-kun. Kin muttered. Naruto pretended to play deaf as he looked at the map. Naruto's team should be in that area near Sasuke. While I don't relish the idea of him getting the Sharingan, we're not close enough, and with Scorpion and Sub-Zero backing him. The wave of killing intent from the distance stopped him. That came from near Haku and Temari's location. Naruto said, and not wasting time leapt to the tree and put on speed. Kin and Gaara right behind him, the three sharing the thought of, please be alright. Get back, you bastards. Temari yelled, using her fan to create a wind cyclone to send the kunai back at the trio of Tsunade. Just my luck. We run into Tsunade and they have a grudge and orders from my father to kill me, Kankuro and Gaara. Bastard. The blonde wind user snarled. Haku was entertaining the other two while Ryu was dealing with one of the forest's inhabitants in the form of a pair of tigers. She used her fan to send the kunai back at the Tsunade. She blinked when a hand appeared in the nin's chest. Seconds later, the Tsunade was ripped apart. Standing there was a ninja in gear similar to the ones that Naruto had warned them about, but its markings were different and in blood red. Cyrax, you fool. Another voice said, and Temari saw a man with a half-metal faceplate. We're supposed to join up with the others. Shut up, Kano. The one identified as Cyrax intoned in a cold, emotionless voice. Finish off the Suna fools or give them to Jade. The one called Kano snorted, his lone eye focusing on Temari. Well, hello pretty. Temari leapt back to a higher tree, her eyes taking in the two men. What do you want? You're not part of the exam. Kano chuckled. You're right, sweetness, we're not. But we can't let you inform the authorities now, can we? Ryu below finished off the tigers with a spinning uppercut. Haku was with her against these two, and she knew there was another one out there somewhere. Not good. If they're here with the ones Naruto said to avoid, this is going to get uglier than Kankuro's scene coming out of a shower with his puppet. Temari thought. How about we saw nothing and you leave us and our teams alone? She tried to negotiate. Negative. Cyrax intoned. No witnesses. But we wouldn't have witnessed nothing if you didn't involve yourselves in our fight. Ain't she something? Sounds like one of them lawyer types. Kano said. Haku, not wasting more time, launched a series of needles at Kano. He flashed his killing intent as he smacked them out of the air. It was oppressive and deadly. So dark, so rich with murder, Haku and Temari both thought. Sorry, loves, but business is business. We'll make it quick, Kano said, drawing a large knife. He licked the blade. Scream for me, he said before leaping. Naruto and his team arrived as Kano was straddling Temari and had his knife in a reverse grip and was about to plunge it down. One moment Naruto was there, the next he was kicking Kano off the blonde fan user. Who the hell are you? Kano demanded. Naruto, and you were attacking someone precious to me. Naruto-kun, look out. He dove aside and Cyrax missed him with a chakra net that hit a tree and began to dissolve. Great. Another of Nada's freak squads. Kano paused and Cyrax looked at him. So you're the Naruto bloke we're to avoid. Kano said. You're told to avoid me. Yeah. The boss says if we engage you, we are to back off immediately. He looked at Temari. Looks like you'll owe me a scream later, pretty. Come near her again and I will kill you. Naruto growled. Kano smirked and shivered theatrically. Ooh, so scared, mate. Just be glad I honor my contracts. He turned towards his partner. Let's go. We need to hook up with Jade and get to the Uchiha. The two shushined away. Naruto helped Temari up as Haku landed next to them. You both okay? Yeah. The one called Kano is quick, he seemed to shimmer as he moved. Temari said. Ryu climbed up the tree and sighed. Are we done? Can we go to the tower now? Haku nodded. We've got our scrolls, we were just trying to find the Uchiha. Naruto nodded. Gaara has sand eyes on the other teams. We know where he is, but Natus's team is nearby, and Ka-san wants us to avoid them, so the mission will have to wait. Unless this Natus gets to him first. Temari said as Gaara and Kin joined them. So what are we going to do? Ryu asked. Head towards the tower, but we'll hold off entering for now. I want to see if we can slow down any of the other teams. Naruto decided. If we're lucky we might get the Uchiha that way. That close to the tower? Kin asked. Naruto shrugged. In this phase of the exam we can kill up until they reach the tower. Haku and Temari nodded. Gaara looked at the Tsunade that littered the ground. Temari explained. Seems father needs a lesson in family bonding. Gaara said coldly. We'll deal with him soon enough. Uncle Orochi won't like that he tried this either. We can deal with, Temari began hotly, but Naruto cut her off. I'm sure you can, Temari-chan. But you are Oto Nins now. That is constituted as breaking the contract your father the Cage made with Uncle Orochi when he traded 3 ninja for you. He looked at the others. Well, let's go. Gaara, the map. The sand user pulled out the map and using his sand-made markers. We're here. The Konoha Genin are here, here and the Uchiha's team is here in what we've been told is dark territory due to the size of the insects and other beasts there. It is also under a permanent veil of darkness. Natas and his freaks throw off the plans, and it's best if we avoid them. Natas is easily Sannin level, and Scorpion and Sub-Zero are near Jonin level. Ryu snorted. Near yours or Gaara's level then. While we're strong we aren't going to show our abilities here. We're in enemy territory. Konoha's our enemy. Ryu asked in surprise and the others groaned. Don't you ever listen during briefings? Kin asked. Did you say something? Ryu fired back only to get a triple smack across the back of his head from the 3 women in the group. As I was saying, Kankuro and his team are coming from the north, and will have to cross the tower to come towards us and the Uchiha. And they aren't aware of the added freaks. Haku said. Unless they have another team other than the one we just saw, then we'll assume no. Naruto confirmed. Well, it's settled. We'll set traps along this route and hope for the best. Temari said as she grabbed her large fan. Move out. Naruto ordered and they took to the trees. Anko looked at the message she'd just gotten from Haku and shuddered. She hurried over and pulled Tsunade aside. We've got more trouble, Ka-san. She said lowly. Natas has another team in the forest, independent of the exam. Damn it. Naruto's ordered the mission to change in the field. He's ordered your team and mine to set up a trap for the Uchiha, but it seems like Natas is after him as well. Shit. Tsunade said. Naruto's told the team to not engage the freaks or Natas, and if it looks like they got the Uchiha, they'll enter the tower and abandon the target. Tsunade was relieved to hear that. So they got the scrolls. Anko smirked. Haku said Naruto's team had their scroll 2 minutes in. Tsunade smiled. That's my boy. Anko smiled. That's my little brother. Should we tell Arrow Pop? Anko asked. Nah, I think he's off peeping on the bathhouses again. We'll let him know later. What about Uncle O? Tsunade smiled. He's with the Hokage. Wouldn't be right to disturb him. You just want to hold onto this and gloat later. Damn right, Tsunade said. But we can let Kimimaro know. I'll go find Bones. Anko shushined away and Tsunade saw the Konoha Jonin were still talking about their students. Be careful, Naruto. Be damn careful. What is keeping that cross-dressing brother of yours? Naruto asked Temari and Gaara. Both the Sabuku siblings shared a look and shrugged. Kabuto and Dosu should have been able to keep him out of trouble. Naruto hated waiting. It was one thing he shared with his Ka-san. Neither had the patience to wait long periods. He looked to see Kin cleaning her battle flute, Haku was meditating and Ryu was asleep against a log, his headband covering his eyes. Temari and Gaara were playing shogi, and Gaara was losing badly. Naruto was pacing back and forth now as sitting still was eating at his nerves. Gaara, what's? Same as you asked me before. Their positions on the map haven't changed. They're all in a sit-and-wait pattern. The Konoha Genin teams have moved up, but they all seem to be converging on the Uchiha's position. Naruto bit his lip. Popular bastard, isn't he? What do you think? He asked the Sabuku Sibs. About what? Temari asked. Should we go see what's happening? Naruto asked. You said we should sit and wait. Temari said. Yeah, but I didn't think they were going to be dragging their feet. Naruto said. Hey. They all looked up to see Kankuro. Kabuto and Dosu came around the tower and made for them. What took you so long? Naruto asked. Kankuro shrugged and went to talk to his siblings. Naruto looked at Kabuto, who pushed his glasses up. Forgive our tardiness, Naruto-sama. We ran into a squad that is aligned with Nada's. Damn. Naruto muttered. They won't be around any longer. It's what took us so long, as they proved to be decent fighters. Dosu nodded. They identified themselves as Reptile, Smoke and Rain. They were all dressed similar to Scorpion and Sub-Zero, but different colors. Yeah, I kicked ass, Kankuro said, and the others sighed at his boasting. Kankuro did fare well. He lost a puppet as the one called Reptile spat acid. Bastard was fast too. He could blend into the foliage like a chameleon. Kankuro said from where he was raiding his siblings' packs for food. Lost my backpack and 2 of my puppets. You still have Crow. Temari gestured to the wrapped puppet. Yeah, Dosu saved him for me. They're dead and we've sealed them in scroll to hand over to Lord Orochimaru. Kabuto continued. How was your task? Naruto went on to explain the other team and how Nada's was stalking the Uchiha. He showed them the map. They're in this area called Dark Territory. It seems like a waiting game. No one has moved according to Gaara's sand eyes. A snake slithered out of the foliage from the tower. Lord Naruto. Asia. Naruto went to a knee and held out an arm for the little snake. What are you doing out here? Message from your mother and Anko. The Oto ninja were on their feet and gathered around. Report to tower. SS's scrub mission. The little asp hissed. Well, that's that, Naruto said. Thank you, Asia. He stroked the snake's head. I'll make sure Nei-chan gets you some mice. Thank you, Naruto. You are kind. The snake dismissed itself and Naruto looked at the Oto group. Well, you heard the orders. Uchiha is out of our hands. Head to the tower. Kabuto stopped him. I'm afraid we didn't get a heaven scroll, Naruto-sama. He said. Naruto looked at the others. Anyone got a spare? Shakes of head and Naruto groaned. And the only teams left are in Dark Territory. Wonderful. Kabuto straightened. We will go on and get a scroll. We could help, Naruto began. No, Lady Tsunade would not be pleased. Our team will do it alone and join you as soon as possible. Go to the tower, Naruto-sama. Naruto narrowed his eyes then sighed. Very well, Kabuto. Don't die. My sister would be most displeased. Kin and Haku snorted and Temari shook her head as well. After dividing up the supplies to rearm Kabuto and the others, the 6 genin entered the tower while the last Oto team headed off towards something far more dangerous. Naruto and the others opened the scrolls and were greeted by Tsunade and Anko. They were ushered to a side room where Orochimaru and Jiraiya was waiting. Where's the other team? Orochimaru asked, getting to his feet. They didn't acquire a scroll yet. They did run into another team of Nada's freaks. Naruto said. They reported everything and Orochimaru did not look happy. And with them all in Dark Territory, anything can happen. Orochimaru hissed. He's after the Uchiha. Yes, he's admitted as much, as did the one called Kano. Naruto looked at the others and turned around. I'm going. No. Tsunade, Anko and Orochimaru said at the same time. We need to stay here. But what about? Naruto started to complain. We need to trust their abilities. Orochimaru said sadly. Konoha is watching us carefully. If you go charging back out there. Naruto spun and kicked a chair across the room. Damn it, uncle. Nada's is out there. Kankuro, Kabuto and Dosu are going to get annihilated. We need to trust them, Naruto. Orochimaru said. I hate it as well, but right now we can't go running around like a leaf nin with one of Jiraiya's stupid books. We need to play smart and keep what we know close. Sarutobi has admitted that many in Konoha would like nothing more than to kill you. Ing Fox. Naruto muttered, resting a hand on his stomach. He looked at Anko, who looked unsettled as well. They remembered Nada's and how strong he was. Bad idea, Kankuro muttered as they leapt from branch to branch. Did I mention this was a stupid idea? He asked louder. Kabuto sighed and adjusted his glasses. Numerous times. But we have our mission. He said. Abort. Kankuro said. Too late, we're committed. Dosu admitted. We're nearly there. Kankuro sighed. This has cluster written all over it. He muttered, fingering the kunai Naruto and Tamari had armed him with. There. Kabuto said as they landed on a branch. Down in a clearing they saw the Uchiha's team laid to waste. Nada's was holding the Uchiha up by his throat. What should we do? Kankuro asked. How about die? The three Odo nin scattered as Kano landed with a grin, his knife buried deep into the branch where they'd been a second before. We have no quarrel with you. Kabuto said. We just need a scroll to enter the tower. You kicking the shit out of Konoha is none of our business. The usually quiet medic said. He was nervous. The amount of killing intent coming from the clearing was at levels nearly making them sick, even at this distance. You killed our comrades, Kano said as he licked the blade of his knife. They attacked us, we have not quarrel and want none. Dosu said. Oh, you got a quarrel, mate. Cyrax hates losing those he considers clan. The Odo three scattered again, as the acid net slammed into the tree and started to dissolve the bark, scorching the tree. Not good, Kabuto thought, seeing another nin join the knife wielder. A woman wearing an outfit similar to Anko's with green hot pants and halter top and a mask joined them. She was holding a staff. About time you joined us, Jade. Kano snarked. You leave us with all the work. Poor baby, she said, tossing her long black hair over her shoulder with a snap of her head. Nada says leave one alive to deliver a message to Uzumaki. She said, holding up a scroll. She pointed. Leave that one. Kill the other two. Oh shit. Nada smirked as Sub-Zero shattered the pink-haired girl into hundreds of pieces and the Uchiha's other teammate was burnt alive by Scorpion. He looked at the Uchiha in his grasp. Don't worry, boy. Your suffering is about to end. I just want your eyes. Even without the Sharingan activated, I can use them. Uchiha DNA after all will be valuable to the highest bidder soon. Nada's paused. I suppose we'll need more genetic material. He snapped his fingers and another ninja appeared. She wore the same marks as Sub-Zero. Frost. Take him to the doctor. Once he has all he needs, kill him and dispose of him. The female ninja, like the other two, was silent as she froze Sasuke Uchiha in a block of ice up to his neck and then vanished in a blast of cold air. He looked over his shoulder as Jade, Kano and Cyrax disposed of the Odo nin. He considered killing the other Konoha nin, but they were like frightened rabbits hiding in the brush. Let's go. I wish to see how Naruto-kun handles the next round. Nada's and his team leapt away, the sign of slaughter all around. In the bushes, Team 8, Team 9 and Team 10 were being sick at the wholesale slaughter they'd just witnessed, too afraid from the killing intent to even move to help Team 7. Neji Hyuga, the first able to move, saw the Odo team and found a survivor amidst the carnage. He saw the scroll stuffed into the nin's clothes and read the name. Uzumaki. It was a name Neji would remember. It was a name he would blame for the slaughter here in the forest. It was a name he'd report to the Hokage as soon as possible. Pardon the intrusion, Lord Orochimaru. The Hokage requests your presence. A Chunin said after opening the door. Tell the Sandaime I will be there shortly. Orochimaru said. I've got a bad feeling about this. Naruto muttered. Stow it, Gaki. Jiraiya said. Everything is fine. No, it's not, Arrow Pop. Kabuto and the others should have made it back by now. Naruto said. Anko, stay with your brother and the others. Dobi, come with me. Orochimaru said. What about me? Tsunade asked. Protect them, Haim. Orochimaru whispered to her. Naruto's right, something feels off. She nodded as she pulled out a deck of cards. Anyone for poker? Orochimaru looked at the escort he and Jiraiya picked up. His personal guard, along with nearly 20 Anbu. Something is wrong here, he hissed. Jiraiya said nothing, but Orochimaru noted the serious look in his friend's eyes. Trap? The Toad Sage asked. Not from Sarutobi-sensei. Orochimaru said. Danzo. The Otokage snorted. That old warhorse is on the run. I doubt he'd mess with us now. The council then, Jiraiya suggested. And start a war. Orochimaru signaled Jirobo. Make sure Kimimaro stays close to Naruto. He hissed. Already done, my lord. Sakin and Ukin want to know if we should kill any of the Anbu. Orochimaru shook his head. Not right now. They're just watching. I'm sure the Hokage has an explanation for this. The powerhouse of the Sound Four fell back. They reached the tower and entered. Ignoring the secretary, they entered the Hokage's office. Orochi, Jiraiya, come in, come in. Once they were in, seated the third side as he took his own seat. I have some disturbing news. Several genin teams were killed in the forest by an outside force. We were made aware of them by our genin teams who managed to avoid them. Orochimaru said. Not all of them, I'm afraid. What do you? Jiraiya paused. Kankuro, Kabuto, Dosu. I'm afraid 2 of them are dead and third is in critical condition. The man who did this called himself Nadas. Orochimaru closed his eyes. Which one survived? Kabuto Yakushi, and that's due to a bloodline he's got for rapid healing. The third said. Nadas and his team arrived in the tower, but there were other witnesses. A genin team saw what happened. They witnessed the death of 2 Konoha genin and a kidnapping of a third. We're sorry to hear this, but what does this have to do with us, Sarutobi? We need to check on our genin. A scroll was left with the survivor. The Hokage said, holding up a bloodstained scroll. It was addressed to Naruto Uzumaki, but the genin that found them opened it. He believes that Naruto is responsible for what happened. Figures, the Gaki's not even there and Konoha blames him. Nadas left a message. He wants Naruto to participate in the Chunin exams, no pulling him out. He wants to see how strong he is, and if Naruto can win, he will return our stolen genin to us unharmed. He lies. Orochimaru said. We have no choice but to believe him. You must keep Naruto in the tournament and not pull your genin out. Unacceptable. I am not risking my son for a genin of Konoha because some psychopath wants to play games. The genin in question is Sasuke Uchiha. If you don't aid us, the council will see this as collaboration. We have no treaty with Konoha, so why should we care what those bastards who, if I remember correctly, ordered assassination missions on our son? Orochimaru said, cutting him off. Really, sensei? You think we don't know what's going on around here? The under-the-table missions by the council, the back-room dealings for kidnappings. Jiraiya said. Your former teammates are still in contact with Danzo and they influence the civilian council, even though they were stripped of their titles the last time we were here. Orochimaru continued. We will mention this to Naruto and allow him to make an informed decision. Orochimaru said. Jiraiya stood. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a genin to check on. I'll let Tsunade and the others know. Jiraiya stood and left. The 2 cages looked across the desk at one another. Orochi. Save it, Sarutobi-sensei. I will not endanger my people, not for Konoha. The Uchiha is your problem. He stood. Be careful of Nadas and his freaks. They are as strong as any of the Sannin. Sarutobi paled. All of them, in their own ways. Each of them has powers that put the Kekkei Genkai of Konoha to shame. Explain, please. One of his lieutenants is called Sub-Zero. The most we've been able to gather on him is he's a cryomancer. He controls ice like none before. His co-lieutenant is called Scorpion. He's got some sort of symbiotic spear. He also seems to manipulate fire and can't be killed. What? I saw members of the Akatsuki attack him. The first to die were the immortals Hidan and Zetsu. They fell to one man, if that's what we can call him. Naruto at the start of the exams sent word back that they were de-aged. I'm getting too old for this shit. Sarutobi muttered. The Oto Nin filled the hospital after Jiraiya told them of the death of Kankuro and Dosu and the critical condition of Kabuto. Gaara's sand swirled around him angrily. They will pay. He kept repeating. Temari was holding onto Naruto, sobbing at the loss of her sibling. Kin and Haku were with Anko, trying to keep her from going out alone and hunting. Tsunade and Shizune were in the room with Kabuto now while Jiraiya had left after seeing his student. The look on his face was rage. Kimimaro stood near Naruto, his eyes in motion as he looked for a threat. We should never have let them go alone. Naruto said as Temari's sobs lessened. It's my fault. No, Temari said looking up at him. Temari, I was in overall field command. Naruto said. He looked at the others. We're going to do this. But we'll do this smart. He said. I don't think this is a good idea. Ryu said. Noted. Ka-san said there is a preliminary before the third round. If you feel you can't do this, withdraw now. There will be nothing said. What are you going to do? Haku asked from next to Anko. I will continue on. I need to see what Nadas has planned. Naruto informed them. The others wasted no time in stating their intentions to continue on as well. Bro, Anko said, her voice cold, nearly emotionless now. What? If you meet up with any of his freaks, kill them all. The last day came and went and the last teams entered the tower. Hayate gave the speech, and two of the Konoha Genin teams gave up. They saw what happened in the forest, and with Sub-Zero and Scorpion standing there, they didn't think they could pass. Neji Hyuga, Ten and Rock Lee stayed in it for Konoha. For Oto, Naruto, Temari, Gaara, and Ryu stayed in. Kin and Haku pulled out after a look from Tsunade. Nadas pulled out as well, surprising everyone. Scorpion and Sub-Zero remained. Well, since we are down to 9, we shall then move on to the final round without the need of preliminary round. Hayate said, seeing what was left. You will have 1 month to prepare. In times past this used to be a one-on-one tournament, but this year we are going to do something different. Hayate coughed several times before speaking again. In 1 month's time we shall have a come as your battle royal until the last 2 remain where they will battle to declare the winner. So will there only be one Chunin? One of the Konoha Genin asked from the back. No, this is an evaluation of abilities and skills. Hayate said. I wish you all well, and we shall reconvene in 1 month's time. As they were leaving, many of the Konoha Genin were giving those that had remained in a wide berth. Naruto smirked as he passed the Hyuga girl and gave her a wink, which caused her to gasp and turn red. Hinata, what's wrong? Her teammate with the dog asked. Naruto chuckled and kept walking. Kin, Haku and Temari all glared at the girl as they passed her by. The message to her was clear. Stay away from my Naruto-kun bitch. Nadas watched with a smirk. Good. Soon you shall come to me, Naruto. Konoha will sacrifice you to me to get their Uchiha back. I am quite afraid that he won't survive, however. He laughed as he faded into the shadows, his laugh echoing off the arena's walls. Naruto-kun, Haku said, sticking her head in his room only to find him gone. She checked the other rooms with no success. Lady Tsunade. Yes, what is it? Do you know where Naruto-kun is? The Oto Nins were not amused. You know, this can be considered kidnapping. Kakashi Hatake looked at the blonde tied to the pole, his lone eye shaped like a U. Forgive me for the way our meeting is going, but I had need to speak with you, and while I think I nearly convinced Lady Tsunade to allow me to speak with you, but it would have been supervised. Naruto snorted, his hands forming pure chakra blades as he began to slice his bonds. I do believe I said you had nothing I wanted to hear. Kakashi shrugged. Be that as it may. He sat down across from Naruto. I did you a disservice the day you were born. I know. Ka-san told me how the village treated me on the day the Kyuubi attacked after my own father sealed the nine-tailed fox inside of me. Kakashi looked down. My only apology is that I was not in the right frame of mind after hearing the death of my sensei and his wife. I was filled with grief and it controlled my actions. Naruto shrugged a shoulder. If that is all, I have things to do. No, it's not all. Kakashi said. There are things you need to know. Things I can tell you about your father. Hataki-san, let me be blunt. Ero Sannin has taught me everything my father knew, he's told me about my parents. There is nothing you can say that will surprise me. Kakashi looked at him and was about to respond when the wall exploded and a pissed-off Tsunade led the way. Behind her were several kunoichi. This is going to hurt, isn't it? Hataki asked in a moment of clarity. Better believe it, bub. Naruto muttered, watching as the girls he knew proceeded to turn the Konoha Jonin into a frozen, pummeled, pincushion with bruises, before a pissed of slug Sannin punch sent him flying across Konoha into the Hokage monument. Said females then turned to the bound Naruto, who deactivated his chakra blades. Ladies, Ka-san, he said. You are in big trouble, mister. His mother said. It's not my fault. Naruto said, hoping to forego any repercussions. Naruto looked at the bonds. You know, not that I wouldn't object to being tied to the bed, but I usually pictured it with less clothes and only one girl. Kin and Haku blushed while Tamari snorted. What can we say? We want you. The fan user said with a perfectly straight face. Kimimaro was not happy he lost you. Kin said. Come on, ladies, I didn't go with Hataki willingly. He was in here when I entered and shushined us away and had me hog-tied before I could say boo. Which was stupid of him considering that Nada's kidnapped the Uchiha. Tamari said. Will you please untie me? Naruto asked. Haku reached for it, but Anko entered. Nope. Nei-chan, I'm trying to think of a reason not to use the handcuff jutsu to bind you to me until we're out of this hellhole. It's not that bad, Haku said. Girly, if I had a choice between living here or in hell, I'd rent this place out and live in hell. Anko said. What's wrong? Naruto asked. Uncle O is meeting with the Konoha Council right now. They want us to hand you over to them so they can trade you for the Uchiha. Naruto snorted. And where is Ka-san? She is having words with Hataki. I think she was about to give him a full exam. Naruto winced. An arrow pop. Where else? Anko asked with a smirk. He never changes. Naruto said with a sigh. Now, let me go. If it's as bad as you say, having me loose to defend myself would be the right course of action. Anko sighed and nodded. Haku released him, and as she was leaning over him, she shot him a grin and kissed him. Hey! Three voices lanced out. A pissed-off Anko was kicking the girls from the room, while Tamari and Kin were yelling about unfair. Naruto smirked as Anko slammed the door after hurting the last kunoichi from the room. You know, Anko Nei-chan, you can't keep girls away from me forever. Naruto said, rubbing his wrists. Want to bet? I'm not Ka-san, I actually have luck. Naruto fired back. Anko grabbed a chair, spun it around and straddled it. Kidding aside, I'm curious which one will get through and claim you. Naruto laughed. Maybe it's a Konoha kunoichi. I saw a Hyuga I could get to faint or blush with a look and a wink. Stay away from the Konoha crowd. You have 3 girls that will kill for you already. Naruto smiled. So, you're saying make a harem with them? Anko sighed. You know, I believe it would take all 3 to keep you out of trouble. It's not my fault everyone wants me. Naruto said with an innocent look. Anko snorted. You okay? Naruto asked. Anko shot him a look. I know how you feel about Kabuto. You don't need to pretend with me, sis. Anko looked away. I want the bastard who did that to him. She admitted. Even with his advanced healing factor, he's in critical. We'll get him. I promise you. Nadas and his freaks will pay. Anko nodded, blinking several times to clear her eyes. Don't take stupid risks. It's me, Naruto said. That's what I'm talking about. The siblings sat in silence for a while. Why did Ka-san want Haku and Kin out of the finals? Naruto asked. Anko sighed. I'll be the first to admit, Haku is damn scary, especially with those ice mirrors. But she wants them to be fully rested in case Nadas tries something. Haku is the best defense we have against Sub-Zero. Naruto was twitching his foot. You want to go train? Anko asked. Hell yes. Neither could sit still for long, and being cooped up in the hotel was driving them insane. Naruto pinned a note to the bed and they shushined away. Kimimaro sighed as he watched the siblings spar. He'd followed them and he had to admit to himself he was amazed they stayed in one place for so long. Anko needed to vent about what happened to Kabuto, and Naruto's energetic ways left no room for him to be confined without millions in property damage. Why the air they all the goddamn way out in the middle of bum nowhere? Tsuyu asked, leaning against a tree. Kimimaro remained quiet. He knew of the sound for Tsuyu would be the best beside himself to protect Naruto from outside harm. The explosion below showed the siblings laughing as more explosions sounded around them. That is some ed-up shit. The redhead muttered. It is how they bond. The bone user said. HMPH. They watched as Naruto altered between 6 different fighting styles, Anko's own hubby style keeping her in motion as they went to pure taijutsu. He is cute, if you're into that shit, you know. Kimimaro sighed. Can you be quiet for 5 minutes? No. Ooh. Blondie's got moves. Wonder if I should get me some as his fan club isn't around. Kimimaro sighed. The amount of girls seeking the blonde was growing. When I swore to protect him, who knew it would become like this? Shit. He looked at Tsuyu's curse and saw the blonde flying at them at high speed. Before he could move, the redhead was leaping from the tree and catching the blonde. They landed with a thump. Naruto looked at his savior. Hey Tae-chan, what did you do that for? What the do you mean what did I do that for, shitstain? You would have bounced off that tree broken in two, you dumbass. Anko was there. You okay, bro? Yeah. Tae-chan said I would have bounced. Anko shrugged. Whoops. Both laughed. Crazy-ers. Kimimaro above sighed. Too close. Anko and Kimimaro watched from the shadows. I can't believe she asked him out. Kimimaro remained silent. I mean, the most abrasive of the lot, froze when he turned those big blue eyes on her after she'd caught him and she stuttered like a schoolgirl. Anko continued. Kimimaro remained quiet, his eyes watching the pair at the ramen stand eating and talking. Tsuyu was still her abrasive and vulgar self, but it didn't bother Naruto. He was talking about a fight from the forest and gesturing about with his chopsticks. This is going to cause trouble. The leader of the Sound 5 said. Bah, it'll just make the competition tighter. I know they'll all want to take him out now. Kimimaro shot her a side look. You actually want one of them to date him? Hell yeah, I just enjoy putting them all through the ringer. I want to make sure they're dedicated to my little brother. Kimimaro sighed. I should rotate her off Naruto's detail if she's going to have an emotional attachment. Like hell you will, Anko said. She'll fight to protect him that much more, and you'll be able to sleep more than 2.5 hours without waking up and worrying about him. Kimimaro sighed. I failed twice already. Nadas and his team got too close and Hatake kidnapped him from under our noses. You're allowed to make mistakes. Just learn from them. Besides, Naruto thinks you're one of the best ninja we have. And who is the best? Me, Anko said with a grin. Her eyes narrowed. Oh ho. They watched as Tsuyu used the excuse of Naruto having ramen on his chin to steal a kiss. As that tongue. And I thought Haku's stolen kiss was something, come up for air you too. She muttered as Tayuya was like a pirate and plundered Naruto's mouth. Any time now, Anko said. They watched the redhead spin Naruto's stool and straddle him. Okay, that's enough. Anko vanished with a shushin and reappeared behind the pair. Time out, she said and grabbed the foul-mouthed Kunoichi who started swearing the minute her mouth was separated forcefully from Naruto's. Said blonde was in a daze, a grin formed on his lips as he stared off into space. Kimimaro sighed as Tayuya was getting inventive with her words and descriptions. He didn't know what an elephant was, but he was certain it wouldn't fit in the area she was telling Anko to put it.